Hey YouTube, it's Burger Bob, Aiden, whatever you want to call me. I've got a couple things I want to talk about, and no, those things are not my super long, really bad hair at the moment, but a couple other things. First of all, I've got a new toy. I got a Brass Lab 42T with Shire's Axial with this cool clip-on counterweight. It's got the same hand bent too. Okay, just kidding. This isn't mine. I wish it was. I actually got this Corporation Bach 42B. I got it pretty cheap from a friend of mine, and I've just kind of wanted a 42B for a long time, and especially, you probably can't see this, a Corporation, there it is, a Corporation Bach 42T, B, not T, because Corporation instruments are right after they moved to Elkhart, instead of Mount Vernon, which is in New York. They moved to Indiana, started making horns there. The management changed, a bunch of stuff like that. Basically, they're much like the earlier instruments in some ways, but more consistent. So Mount Vernon and New York Bachs are supposed to be really, really good. Not all of them are really good. And that you can say that about all generations of Bachs, but Corporation are pretty much the most consistently good. So like maybe 70% of them are really good instruments instead of 50 like the mid-90s or something like that. So yeah, I got this super beater 42B. It's actually so beat that I can't put the slide lock on without it going click, 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 click. For some reason, it literally cannot not hit this thing unless you bend it completely out of the way, and then it doesn't lock the slide. So it's useless. The valve, can't hear that? I know you can't. Has a bunch of play up and down and side to side. So that basically means it's not sealing unless you just dump oil in there and it's just bathing in oil. It moves pretty well, and it's not too loud. Actually, the earlier Bach linkage, this stuff that looks really weird and has all these adjustable things, is, in my opinion, better than the later stuff they used in the 90s, 2000s with fake mini balls, which always ends up just being clank, 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 clank. This stuff can be loud, but only if you don't oil it, basically. Obviously, this is closed wrap. I prefer closed wrap because the open wrap 42BO sticks out like this far. I was really about to say the F word right there. I hate how far they stick out. If you've ever sat up against a wall or something, you're going to be like, bonk. Like, it just sticks out so far. Why does it do that? There's no reason to have the wrap like that. And the closed wrap, I think, looks a little better. I like this compact look. That's dumb. Why does it matter how it looks? But I also don't mind how they play. It really doesn't make that much of a difference. The thing about the 42B is that it's based literally just on the Bach 36, which is a 525 medium bore instrument. Literally the only differences are the bell is 1/2 of an inch larger. The slide tenon, or the receiver on the bell section, is the next size up. It's the Bach 50 size. And the slide is 547 with a bass crook. So if you put a 36 slide, somehow, you can't actually do that with this receiver. If you put that on a 42B bell, you have a Bach 36 with a 1/2 inch larger bell, 8.5 instead of 8. So some parts about this are really undersized. Like the valve is not the right size for a 547, basically. It's just too small. Like the ports go, and then, this stuff is all the right size, but the valve is just the wrong size. The gooseneck, I think, is undersized for what it should be for a 547. But who cares? Because the 42B is like one of the dominant 547s of the world. Maybe not anymore, but it was for a long time. And that's because it's actually pretty good for being something that's literally a Frankenhorn made out of different Bach parts. And like this one, slide is garbage. I mean, like I cleaned it for the first time and I felt along the inner slide with my my wipe. Like I was wiping it down with a rag, and it felt like the surface of the moon. It's just like blah, 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 blah. I was like, okay, that's not good. And then like outer slide, I can feel dents all over the place. There's no like big dents that like stop the action. It's not slow. It's just obviously a bad slide, and it's obviously way out of alignment, especially at the top. I don't even know how it's possible. Someone took this apart in the past and like put it together really badly. Everything is just slightly out of alignment, not quite like centered, and there's like just solder everywhere. I don't think any of the solder joints are popped right now, unlike my 88H, which is gone now. I sold it. So they're all still connected, but they are just not very well done. The tuning slide like moves easily enough, but if you take it out, it takes like 5 minutes to get back in because it's like. And this just moves really well. It's way better than my 88H. I don't know why. And there's the slightest bit of seal that lasts just a tiny second if you pull that in and out. And right now I'm using Wick 4AL, which is what Dennis Wick invented. Literally, he made this mouthpiece size for an 8H of his, Con 8H, and it worked really well for that. In my 88H, which I got a new slide and stuff for a while back, I didn't show you guys, it just didn't really play very well, and nothing really centered. And so I got this, and this just works better for me. So yeah, 42B. I gave it to my teacher, who plays in Bach, and he played it, and he's just like, he's like, yeah, it's pretty good, you should keep it. I was like, okay. And I agree, because it plays low well, and it plays high well. So the thing about close rap, and I've talked about this like 4 times now in different videos, is that you can't force notes, right? If you try and force them out, you kind of get that. Kind of goes, you get the resistance, and then it goes through, or it just never happens in the first place. So you have to finesse and just kind of relax into it. I mean, it's like playing low stuff in general. Oh man, my hair is so bad. It's like playing low stuff in general. If you try and force and pressurize low stuff out, even if the note happens, which it might, it's a 50-50 chance, it might not sound very good. So it's just like anything else. You have to finesse, use relaxation instead of tightness to make things come out. And you just have to use a little more. You can't just kind of hope for the best and just kind of play. You kind of have to realize, this note with the valve is going to take a little bit different airstream than without the valve, just because I am using the valve. And I do have to play a bunch of low stuff on this. Thankfully, this has E pull. Let's see. There it is right there. I need to mark it so I know where that is. And I have to play a bunch of low C's. And those, they're not easy. Maybe they sound kind of easy because I'm pretty good, but they're not easy to just pop out a low C. So, no, it's not perfect. That 42T I just showed you, the Brasso one, which is a friend of mine, it's not mine. It would be easier to just kind of pound out low Cs. That's not really what I want with this, but that's the case. But also, the high range on this is super good. That was a horrible example. I just flubbed E flat like twice. But the E flat partial just pops, and so does high B flat. I mean, I can play bolero, and I suck at bolero on this with pretty large mouthpiece too. So yeah, this is a good horn. It's totally beat up. Eventually, I'm going to get it worked on. I'll just have someone take the whole thing apart, put a new blessing valve in, which is really cheap and is about the same size and is better than this one. And it'll just be an even better horn. The problem is, in order to get the slide worked on, someone's just going to look at it and be like, oh yeah, we're going to replace all the tubes. Which usually isn't a problem, but that means I lose the lead pipe, which is probably one of the best parts about this, because I've used this slide on several other people's instruments, other 42s, 42BOs, etc., and it's a really good playing slide. It just doesn't move very well. So that might be an issue. Alright, so, man, this is a long video. I'm sorry, guys. I like talking about instruments. My other point today, I wanted to talk about outer positions. So lots of teachers and things I hear talking on the internet, in real life, etc., will go, why are you using the valve for that note? If you use the valve for that note, it doesn't sound as good. And, maybe it's out of tune, or you can't play as loud on the valve, or whatever it is. So, it's not quite as simple as you should play every note you can on the slide instead of the valve. It's not quite that simple. You need to take into account many things. So I'm full grown for my age. I'm 26. Yeah, I'm 26, right? I'm 26 and I'm 5'9"-ish, which gives me a wingspan of 5'9"-ish. And that is not quite enough to be really comfortable playing 6th and 7th positions. I mean, this is me. I'm standing straight at the camera playing 6th. You can see how my shoulder kind of goes forward to get my arm far enough out. And 7th, I'm twisting my torso just a little bit and pushing out my shoulder. Some people don't have to do that. And they're just awesome and they're super tall and they have huge wingspan, so they can just kind of go, that's 7th position, that's 7th position. They don't have to do that. So I've had people, and this, I'll give you a specific example. I was in a youth orchestra and I was playing Shostakovich 5, which has some low Fs that have to be really loud. And the trombone guy, who is trombone teacher at CU Boulder, I think, told me, hey, why don't you play those in 6th? And I was like, I guess. I'm really used to playing F in 1st position. I'm pretty good at it. I have this tuned so that I can play F in 1st. I even do on this. And I'm pretty good at that. And if I play it in 6th, I'm never quite sure if I'm in perfect 6th position because I just don't use it that often. And so I did, and they were worse. And why is that? Not because, I'm playing on the slide, which technically is better in most cases, but because I have to do this with my body to play 6th position. So most of us are not 7 feet tall with 7-foot wingspans. We can't just go 7th position, 7th position, 7th position. So you have to keep in mind that, yeah, maybe the B natural will sound better. Maybe it's like a whole note, and you just want to play B natural. And 7th position because it probably sounds better there than right here. Just because maybe you're playing this and it's going through stuffy clothes wrap. Yeah, that's true. It will sound, nominally, it'll sound better in 7th position if the slide was just there and you played it. But you have to take into account that you're changing your body to make that note happen. And so, if you change your body, you have to change a bunch of other things, right? Like, I can't intake as much air. I can't be as relaxed here, which means it travels up to here, which means it travels up to here, which means it travels into here, and I get tension everywhere because I do this. So you have to keep that in mind. Just make it an even balance thing. Don't play all notes with a valve just because you have it, but don't play all notes on the slide because you have it. That's it.